Welcome to the Sisters on the Hill, the podcast from the Sisters of St. Benedict in Ferdinand. We are one of the largest communities of Benedictine women in the United States. And on this podcast, you'll get an inside look at life at the monastery, our work and ministries, programs, opportunities, and more.
Hello, welcome to the Sisters of St. Benedict of Ferdinand, Indiana's podcast. I have here with me today Sister Anita Louise Lowe, our Prioress. And if you don't know what a Prioress is, she's the leader of our community. She's chosen to lead the community for a certain amount of time. And so I thought, it'd be kind of nice if we talked to Sister Anita about what her life is like as Prioress and what she can share with us. There's probably lots of things that she can't share with us. So welcome, Sister Anita.
Thank you.
My first question is, tell us a little bit about, how long have you been in community, those kind of things.
I had to count there. I entered in August of 1987, so that would mean 38 years since I entered. I made first profession in 1989, final profession in 1995.
So what were your ministries before you became Prioress?
Right before I became Prioress, I was serving as the monastery liturgist, and I was in that position for 11 years. Prior to that, I served as vocation director, and I was in vocation ministry for 10 years. And prior to that, I worked in communications, public relations, 5 years initially for the community here and 2 years for Presentation Academy in Louisville, Kentucky. And initially, I started out teaching. That was a very short-lived part of my life. I graduated college right before I entered with a degree in English, minor in French, and secondary ed. I taught part-time 1 year and full-time 1 year. That was the end of that. I got called to do other things.
I can see that. I think that's what community helps us to see sometimes of what our gifts are and where we're called to. And
right. I've often told people, especially when I was doing vocation talks, when I was vocation director, that the greatest gift of community is calling forth gifts and leading us into areas of ministry that I may have never thought about doing on my own.
That's kind of like this podcast.
Exactly. We get called and we respond.
Mm-hmm. So I want you to go back all the way to when the community discerned Prioress, and what was your feelings when the community was coming to a consensus around you?
It was overwhelming in some regards, but it was also a real sense of feeling called. I knew the Holy Spirit was leading this, but during the process, as we put up toward the end, how many people are saying, I think the community is calling forth this person, and how many are calling forth this one. It got to a point where it was a little hard to know exactly where we were and how it was going to come out. And the beauty of our discernment process, I think, is when those times happen, our facilitators are so good at being able to say, well, maybe you all need to go out and pray again, or do you need to have some other questions addressed? And then that last time when we came back into the room and they put the paper up on the wall, and it was overwhelming that the community had shifted in saying that they believed that the Spirit was calling me forth. I just remember, I think my mouth just dropped open and stayed in that position for quite a while, just with that sense of, oh my gosh, what is this, how my life is changing at this moment.
And for those of you listening, to kind of explain, when I talk to people who don't know about community, I kind of talk about the Prioress is similar to the president of the corporation or things like that. But we don't elect a Prioress like we elect a president. It's almost a year-long process of a lot of prayer and asking the Holy Spirit to come upon us. And do you have any more about that?
And I think that piece of we always do part of the time right beforehand of what direction are we going as a community? Where do we need to go in the next number of years? Okay, what are the skills we need in somebody to lead us there? And who might that be? So it really is a sense of calling forth. I know I've often told people too, no, you don't run for it. Anybody running for it, we should, run away from, because not that it's bad, but that it really is a sense of allowing God to work through the community to call forth the person who can best lead us at any particular time. And that's why it's so important to have that sense of prayer and that God is leading the way. And I know one of the things that I've heard from many former prioresses is that piece of the grace of the office. And I have felt that so much, especially as long as I remember that this isn't all about me. It's about us as a community, and to remember to ask God for assistance before going into either a meeting or a conference with a sister or any situation that I know is going to be particularly difficult. I always make sure that I, if possible, center myself and really ask for the Holy Spirit to lead and guide not just my actions, but my words.
And also, every sister who is 5 years perpetually professed or more has to take their own prayer time to say, okay, if my name comes up, what's going to happen?
Would I be open to consider this? Right. Yeah. So that's part of that discernment, to actually consider, am I open to that? Is there some reason that it would not be a good thing for me or my life situation at this moment? But that shouldn't just be, I don't want to. Right. Or I enjoy the ministry I'm currently doing. I don't want to give that up. It really has to be a much more in-depth sense of there is a legitimate reason why I would say, no, I cannot do this at this time.
So what, to you as prioress, what is the most important part of being prioress? I'm interested to see if yours is the same as what I think the most important.
I think the most important part is the piece that in the rule St. Benedict says that the prioress is to take the place of Christ in the monastery. And that is no small task and no small responsibility. A lot of times the day-to-day, the business end of running a monastery, especially our size, can take up a lot of time and energy, but it's really important to me that I always remember that I have been called to lead the individual members of the community and the community as a whole. It's why sometimes I like to describe to someone who has no clue what a prioress is, I'll say, well, it's like being CEO of a company and pastor of a parish, because it's that piece of pastoring the community, being there, listening to individuals, especially when they come at maybe inopportune times and say, do you have a minute? It's not always about, well, I can set an appointment with you. Sometimes it's like, you need to talk to me right now, and I need to make time for that and want to make time for that. So I think that piece of really keeping in mind there are others who can help us in the running the business end of things, but that as prioress, it's my role to be there for the individual sisters.
Yeah, that was what.
Was that what you were going to say?
That was what I was going to say. I think it's like your ministry as prioress is 24/7. I mean,
it is 24/7.
You can't say, "Oh, I'm not working right now." I mean, you could say if it's not a like emergency
or right. That's true. And I have, when somebody wants to just give me an update on something, it's like, does that need to be today? Does that need to be tonight? And they'll go, oh, no, it can wait. But other times, especially when somebody's sharing something about her health or her family or something really important going on, the call is to drop everything and respond. And I've often said the difference now, and prioress is ahead of me, especially a number of years ago, is that even when I'm away from the monastery, because of cell phones, I can be reached. And there's a blessing in that for individuals who need to have a conversation and don't want to wait a week. But there's also that piece of that you're always on. But I do see that as also a gift because I want to be aware and know what is happening with the lives of the sisters entrusted to me.
What is the hardest part about being prioress?
Other than the 24/7 piece,
Yeah, I guess
that can be one of the hardest pieces. One of the hardest pieces of how do I take care of my own personal needs. That has to be really intentional because I also know, that saying that if you give and never replenish, you're going to run out of anything to give is very true. Because of that, it's really important to me that I have my regular appointments with my spiritual director and that I have friends and family who call me aside for some relaxation, some time to refresh myself. I think the other thing that I would say is, especially at times when things are difficult for an individual, holding that. And that is not something I can just go find somebody else and share. So holding that in a way it can sometimes feel burdensome, and yet it goes back to, it also is that entrusting and being gifted with, and then to take that person to prayer. But there are times when something's happening and it can be difficult to turn it all off at night.
No, I guess so.
And I remember hearing, I think it was Cardinal Bernardin, who once said, God, I have done everything I can. I now need to sleep. I give it over to you. And there have been times when I have prayed basically those same words. It's like, I need to rest if I'm going to be good to anybody tomorrow. So, okay, God, here. And then sometimes it's like, no, really here. I really would like to sleep. But yeah, that piece of turning it over.
I guess I didn't think about, everything that's going on probably.
Generally, yeah. Occasionally something comes by later, but yeah.
But not to take that
into me.
Yeah.
Not to take it in and not have it consume me. That's really where time for prayer is so important, and time to give myself time away or time apart so that I can actually be refreshed to interact with the next person who comes.
Yeah. But you're not in it alone. You also have a leadership team.
Right. I have a leadership team. So I have a person who serves as sub-prioress and monastery coordinator. The three of us really have formed a team where we can share certain things. Some things I can share with the sub-prioress that I can't share with the monastery coordinator. So because as sub-prioress, that person really is the one who is closest, and especially in dealing with personnel issues. And then the treasurer also is part of that administrative team. So we can help sub for one another when somebody's away. And we really can be the persons that we go to talk out an issue. It's like, how are we going to tend to this? How are we going to handle this? What do we need to do next?
What is something that you will never forget?
The first thing that comes to mind is COVID. I had been prioress, 7 months, 8 months when the pandemic hit. So, I got to shut down the monastery and deal with all of that. So, and that was such an unknown and difficult in many ways of having to make decisions about who could come into the monastery, including our own sisters. And initially it was like, oh, so this is a couple of weeks or it's a month or it's, oh no, it keeps on going. So in some ways that was the first thing that comes to my mind, because I think the team was really important in that, because it would be, okay, how are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? How do we respond to this? And in ways, there were many graces that happened during that time. And one thing I think I learned was, generally as a person, I really do like to have things rather organized and scheduled as much as possible and know what's happening when. And I really had to learn to just let go and go with the moment and the flow and trust. There are a couple of other things that pop in my mind and that are a little different vein. I think celebrating the final profession of Sister Roxanne and the first profession of Sister Katie, that joy of profession and presiding over and receiving that profession. And then the other thing that came to my mind was having had the opportunity to go with a group of our women of the rule on a pilgrimage to Italy. And when we got to the cave of Subiaco, where Benedict escaped Rome and where he fled there to sort of become who he was meant to be and to listen to God. And I had been to Subiaco once before, but this time going as prioress, it was like I felt drawn straight into that cave, and to just place my hand on the rock of the cave where he had been and just ask for his spirit and grace and strength to be with me and our whole community. That was a really special moment.
I was hoping you were going to bring up Jubilees and profession, because for me, your presence and your leading those events really touches me every time we have them. It's like, because I could just feel how you're there, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it really is. They're just such moments of significance in each individual's life, but also the life of the community. And it really is such a joyous occasion.
And you can tell also, like, because we're Benedictines, we know each other very well. And it's like, okay, Anita knows these people even better than I know these people. And
yeah, so there's that real connection with each of them. And,
yeah. And I still remember sitting on the couch in Louisville when we did that first announcement through YouTube, when you talked to all of us on mission.
Oh, good grief, yes. Yes. And even the fact of when we did missioning, which is our annual sending everybody out, and we're always together for that. And instead we had TV screens in church so that we could see all of you on mission, and you all were on computer.
Right. Yeah.
It was quite unique and different. And yet I think we also did our best to ensure that we didn't just drop the traditions and the rituals and all of that. We just had to change how we did it for that particular moment.
Anything else you want to tell our listeners about Prioress community?
I think it really is just a sense of, it is a gifted moment to serve. And that they're right, the grace of the office is tangible. And to trust that, I would say to anyone who in the future is being called into a leadership position of any kind, is that piece of always ask. And this is true for daily life too, but to ask for the grace to do what you need to do in any particular day and at any particular moment, and really trust that God is with each one of us, no matter who we are and what we're called to do.
So at the end of every podcast, I've been asking the sisters all the same questions.
Okay.
And it's just, what comes to your mind the first thing? So coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Mystery novel or romance novel?
Mystery.
Morning person or night person?
Both.
Almost everybody has said that.
Yeah, Yeah. I like my quiet mornings, but I also get a lot done in the evening.
Beach or the mountains?
Oh, that's hard.
If you could choose one of them for sabbatical time, which would be your first preference?
All right. Beach. There's something about ocean waves.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Oh, you're the first person that's really said winter.
I hate the heat. I can handle cold. I can add layers.
And if a woman came to you and said she was discerning religious life, what would you recommend?
Pray. Pray and talk to trusted individuals and ask God what it is that God has in store for you. Where are your gifts and where can you best be the person God has created you to be? And if you can find that, no matter what difficulties life places in front of you along the way, because they'll always be there, then you can trust that God is with you and leading you.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy Prioress schedule to come talk to you about it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sisters on the Hill. If you're interested in exploring what life as a sister looks like and whether you're being called to that life, reach out to us at vocation@thedome.org. This podcast was recorded at Monastery Immaculate Conception in Ferdinand, Indiana, and was made possible by funds from our philanthropic circle, the Women of the Rule. Follow us on social media at Ferdinand OSB or visit us at thedome.org to learn more. That's THEDOME.org. Thanks again for listening and have a blessed day.